A few months back, Samsung added another member to its affordable J series, the Galaxy J7 Prime. It's been a while now and there's fierce competition in its segment. Despite that, does the Samsung brand value and the performance of the phone live up to expectations? Let's find out. Hey, this is Sundar from C4E Tech and this is our full review of the Galaxy J7 Prime. Let's roll. Samsung's gone with its regular design language for the J7 Prime, which means it looks pretty much like any other Samsung mid-ranger. That said, it has taken a leap forward from the J7 by adding a fingerprint sensor to the front and metal to the back. There are plastic inserts at the top and the bottom for reception, but it doesn't seem to help at all. The cellular reception is very poor. Holding it in a different position does help, but not enough to not get frustrated. To the front, there's a 5.5-inch TFT display with a resolution of 1920 by 1080 pixels, an upgrade in terms of resolution over the 720p display on the J7 2016. It's sharp at about 400 pixels per inch, the viewing angles are excellent, and the visibility under sunlight is quite good as well. That said, it is also a kinda downgrade since it trades in Super AMOLED from the J7 2016 for a LCD panel. So the colors are a bit more muted. You don't get the deep blacks, but it's still a decent display. But this being a Samsung mid-ranger, Samsung have again omitted the ambient light sensor. You do have the outdoor mode. What it does is simply increase the brightness above the regular levels. Talking about sensors, we don't have a gyroscope sensor either. This could be a deal breaker if you're planning to use the phone with a VR headset frequently. Below the display, we've got the capacitive keys that are not backlit and an active fingerprint scanner, a first for a Samsung phone. This got me excited, but unfortunately, I had a terrible experience with it. It is fast, but at times it takes a few attempts. The sensor often scans anything that comes in contact with it. During my usage, at least once a day, when I took the phone out of my pocket, I realized I'd already ran out of attempts to unlock the phone. And the worst thing, at times I've had to wait for 30 minutes to attempt to unlock again. Anyway, moving on. To the left there's a micro SD card slot and a dual SIM tray that supports 4G VoLTE. To the bottom we have the primary microphone, a micro USB port, and a 3.5mm headphone jack. The audio quality via the jack is acceptable for the price. The weird placement of the loudspeaker is something I actually found myself liking. It's arguably better than a bottom placement. The quality and the audio levels are above average. For all its flaws, the J7 Prime has a pretty good design. It weighs at about 167 grams. It doesn't feel very heavy. It's also quite thin at about 8mm. The display is covered by 2.5D Gorilla Glass, the screen-to-body ratio is quite good at about 73%, the sides are curved which help with the grip, and the buttons feel tactile. Moving on, the J7 Prime, just like the J7 2016, is powered by the 64-bit Exynos 7870 octa-core chip that consists of 8 Cortex A53 cores clocked at 1.6 GHz each. My expectations weren't high for this chip, but under day-to-day usage scenarios, the performance was quite good. Apps and games loaded up quicker than I expected. It did struggle to keep up with heavy usage, but that's expected given that it's a mid-ranger. The phone's got 3 gigs of RAM, up from 2 gigs on the J7 2016, but it doesn't reflect well in memory management. I opened up the exact same apps on the Honor 6X. While it managed to have all of them in memory, the J7 Prime reloaded a lot of them. The Mali T830 MP2 GPU takes care of gaming. With light games, the performance was great. No major stutters or frame drops. The experience was smooth. With heavy titles though, the experience deteriorated to an extent. Frame drops occurred frequently, and there was quite some lag. It's also worth noting that the Exynos 7870 chip is fabricated using the 14nm FinFET technology, meaning it isn't all that power hungry, which in turn means great battery life. With heavy usage, which includes about 30 minutes of phone calls, a few hours of social media dosage, an hour or two of light gaming, some video streaming, an hour of music over Bluetooth, a lot of push notifications, periodic camera usage, while on 2 SIM cards with either Wi-Fi or 4G on, the J7 Prime easily lasted me a day. With light usage, it got even better. I was able to go on for a day and a half before running out of juice. You should be able to churn out more with battery saving modes. On that note, let's get to the camera. The J7 Prime sports a 13MP f1.9 rear-facing camera with a single LED flash. This is the exact same camera that's found on the J7 2016. The camera performance is quite good. For more in-depth information, here's a card to my dedicated camera review of the J7 2016. Do check that out. The front-facing camera has gone through an upgrade from 5 to 8 megapixels with an aperture of f1.9. The selfies look good. There's ample detail with good colors. The dynamic range is decent. A bit of software sharpening comes into play under artificial and low lighting conditions, just like with most other Samsung phones. That said, overall, the camera performs good enough for the price. The J7 Prime runs on Android 6.0.1 Marshmallow. There is quite some bloat, and the apps are not uninstallable. They can only be disabled. But that didn't take a hit on the user experience, which honestly was quite good. TouchWiz feels refined. It doesn't lag frequently. Samsung's marketing favorites like the S-Spike mode and the Ultra Data Saver are things that I've never had to use. That said, there are some nifty little features as well, like S-Power Planning, the Easy mode, and the signature Quick Launch shortcut, among many others. TouchWiz also lets you switch between SIM1 and SIM2 for mobile data seamlessly. Something I don't understand though is why Samsung has disabled haptic feedback. It does work with third-party apps like Gboard though. Anyway, the J7 Prime is currently priced at 15,900 rupees. At this price, whether or not to recommend this phone is gonna be a tough call for me. On one hand, we have really good upgrades from the J7 2016, like the higher resolution display, better build, more RAM, better selfie camera, and the presence of a fingerprint scanner. Definitely sounds great for an extra 400 rupees as of today. On paper at least. But on the other hand, there are a lot of annoyances. The messed up fingerprint scanner, the poor cellular reception, the lack of gyroscope and ambient light sensors, and the mediocre RAM management. Even if I didn't compare it with Chinese budget kings like the Cool One, Redmi Note 4, G5 Plus, and the Honor 6X, since you know Samsung is a tier 1 brand and all, I still wouldn't recommend this phone right now due to the certain flaws that make it almost unusable. Maybe if Samsung fixes them via updates, and if you fiercely hate Chinese brands, even Moto, for some weird reason, then yeah, the J7 Prime would be a pretty good deal. What do you think? Would you buy the phone right now if you could? Let me know in the comments below. Hit thumbs up if you agree with my take on the Galaxy J7 Prime, and subscribe to C4E Tech for more videos like this. While you're at it, do this to make sure you get notified as soon as a video goes live on C4E Tech. Thanks a lot for watching. This is Sundar from C4E Tech, leaving for the moment. Have a nice day.